Most Diablo players think they're getting better with time. I thought the same thing. After 1,000 plus hours in Diablo 4, I realized I was making game-breaking mistakes that cost me hundreds of hours and millions of gold. In this video, I'll expose the biggest blunders that kept me weak, the resource disasters that bankrupted my builds, and the meta mistakes that made me a laughingstock. These aren't small errors, these are build-destroying decisions that I wish someone had warned me about. Let's make sure you don't repeat my stupidity. Mistake 1. Hoarding everything like a pack rat. Let me start with the mistake that nearly broke my entire Diablo 4 experience. Hoarding. I kept every single rare item just in case. It became useful later. My stash was completely full of mediocre gear with potential. I had 47 different chess pieces because one might be perfect for a future build. I kept weapons with terrible rolls because they had one good affix. The reality? I never used 99% of them. I was spending more time managing inventory than actually playing the game. I missed out on countless upgrade opportunities because I couldn't find my good gear in the mess. The lesson: be ruthless with salvaging. If you haven't used an item in 2 weeks, it's gone. Keep only items you're actively using or pieces that are genuine upgrades. Your future self will thank you when you can actually find your best gear. Mistake 2. Ignoring aspects until level 70. One makes me cringe just thinking about it. I played my first character to level 50 without understanding how aspects work. I thought aspects were endgame only content. I was struggling with basic enemies while using 0 legendary aspects because I didn't want to waste them on leveling gear. Meanwhile, other players were absolutely demolishing content with properly aspected builds at level 25. I was fighting tooth and nail for kills that should have been trivial. I finally learned you can extract aspects from junk legendaries and imprint them on rare items. This changed everything overnight. Suddenly my damage tripled, and the game became actually fun instead of a slog. The lesson: start using aspects immediately at level 15. Extract from any legendary drops, even terrible ones. Imprint them on your current gear. You're not saving anything by hoarding aspects, you're just making the game unnecessarily difficult. Mistake 3. Building for everything instead of specializing. This was probably my most expensive mistake. I tried to create hybrid builds that could do everything: speed farming, boss killing, PvP, group play, everything. The result? My builds were mediocre at everything and great at nothing. I couldn't clear high-tier content efficiently, my boss damage was pathetic, and I got destroyed in any PvP encounter. I spent millions of gold trying to balance offensive and defensive stats, trying to make a character that was unkillable but still did massive damage. It doesn't work that way. The breakthrough came when I finally committed to pure specialization. My first dedicated speed farm build cleared content 3 times faster than my balanced hybrid. My first dedicated boss killer could actually handle endgame encounters. The lesson: pick one thing and excel at it. Make a character that's the best speed farmer possible or the best boss killer possible. You can always make alts for different content types. Jack of all trades, master of none. Mistake 4. Following outdated build guides. Here's where I lost the most time and resources. I was religiously following build guides from Season 1 while playing in Season 4. The guides looked professional, had great formatting, detailed explanations. What they didn't have was current information. Skills had been nerfed, items had been changed, entire mechanics had been reworked. I spent weeks grinding for items that were no longer meta-relevant. I allocated Paragon points into nodes that had been nerfed into uselessness. My build was 3 seasons behind the current meta. When I finally discovered this, it was devastating. All that time investment, all those resources, completely wasted because I didn't check the guide's date. The lesson: always verify build guide dates before following them. Look for current season tags. Cross-reference multiple sources. If a guide doesn't mention recent patch changes, it's probably outdated. Current meta beats perfect outdated builds every single time. Mistake 5. Completely ignoring the Codex of Power. I played for over 200 hours before I realized what the Codex of Power actually did. I thought it was just a collection screen, something for completionists. I was manually farming specific dungeons hoping for aspect drops, while completely ignoring that I could just unlock most aspects permanently through the Codex. I spent entire evenings farming dungeons for aspects that were literally one click away in my Codex. I was trading for aspects with other players when I already had access to better versions. The worst part? Some Codex aspects have higher roll ranges than randomly dropped ones. I was actively choosing inferior versions because I didn't understand the system. The lesson: complete every dungeon that rewards an aspect you might ever use. The Codex versions are guaranteed and often better than drops. It's the most reliable way to get core aspects for any build. Mistake 6. Terrible stat priority. Understanding. This mistake kept me weak for months. I was prioritizing item power level over actual stat quality. I equipped every higher item power piece immediately, assuming bigger numbers meant better performance. I was wearing gear with completely irrelevant stats just because the item power was higher. I had a necromancer wearing gear with bow skills modifiers, a barbarian with sorcerer skill bonuses. My stat priorities were completely backwards. I focused on main stats like strength and intelligence, not realizing that percentile damage multipliers were exponentially more powerful. I valued flat damage over critical strike damage, armor over damage reduction percentages. The learning curve was brutal once I understood multiplicative versus additive bonuses. My high item power gear was actually making me weaker than properly stated lower level pieces. The lesson: item power means nothing if the stats don't match your build. Learn multiplicative bonuses versus additive ones. Prioritize percentile damage multipliers over flat stat increases. A perfectly stated rare item often beats a poorly stated legendary. Mistake 7. Playing solo when group play is superior. I was stubborn about playing solo. I thought group play was for people who couldn't handle the game alone. This was pure ego talking, and it cost me massive efficiency. Solo play in Diablo 4 is significantly slower for most content types. Group play gives experience bonuses, better loot drops, faster clear times, and shared knowledge. I was missing out on all of this because I wanted to prove I could do everything myself. When I finally joined group sessions, the difference was staggering. We cleared nightmare dungeons in half the time, shared aspect discoveries, and helped each other optimize builds in real time. The social aspect made the game more enjoyable too. Instead of grinding alone, I was part of a community that shared strategies, warned about upcoming nerfs, and celebrated good drops together. The lesson: embrace group play, especially for farming content. Find a consistent group or community Discord. The efficiency gains alone are worth swallowing your solo pride. Mistake 8. Misunderstanding damage buckets completely. Damage buckets were my nemesis for the longest time. I stacked additive bonuses thinking they were multiplicative. I would stack multiple sources of increased damage, thinking each one multiplied my total damage. In reality, they were all adding together in the same bucket, giving diminishing returns. Meanwhile, I ignored critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and overpower damage, because I didn't understand they were separate multiplier buckets. My builds had impressive tooltip damage, but terrible real-world performance. I couldn't understand why other players with lower damage were clearing content faster than me. The revelation about damage buckets completely changed how I approached itemization. Instead of stacking one type of bonus, I needed balanced increases across different bucket types. The lesson: learn damage bucket mechanics early. Diversify your damage bonuses across multiple buckets rather than stacking one type. Multiplicative scaling beats additive stacking every time. Mistake 9. Wrong approach to seasonal characters. My first seasonal character approach was completely backwards. I tried to rush to endgame as fast as possible, skipping everything I considered optional. I ignored side quests, skipped exploration, rushed through the campaign without gathering resources or learning new mechanics. I thought efficiency meant speed above all else. This backfired spectacularly. I reached endgame with terrible gear, no resources for crafting, missed crucial unlocks, and no understanding of seasonal mechanics. Meanwhile, players who took their time had better gear, more resources, complete Codex unlocks, and actually enjoyed the seasonal experience instead of treating it like a race. I learned that seasonal characters are about the journey and exploration, not just rushing to copy endgame builds as quickly as possible. The lesson: take time during seasonal progression. Complete side content, explore thoroughly, gather resources. The seasonal experience is designed to be savored, not sprinted through. Mistake 10. Not learning from the community early. My biggest mistake was trying to figure everything out alone instead of learning from the community. I spent weeks discovering new strategies that the community had known for months. I made build mistakes that hundreds of forum posts had already addressed. I farmed inefficiently while guides for optimal routes already existed. Pride kept me from asking questions or admitting I didn't understand mechanics. I thought asking for help meant I was bad at the game. The reality is that Diablo 4 is incredibly complex, with hidden mechanics, optimal strategies, and constantly evolving metas. No one figures it all out alone. When I finally engaged with community resources, Discord servers, build guides, and theory crafting discussions, my improvement accelerated dramatically. The lesson: engage with the community early and often. Join Discord servers, read forums, watch guide videos. Don't let pride prevent you from learning from players who have already solved the problems you're facing. Bonus mistake: selling instead of salvaging. Quick bonus mistake that cost me millions in materials. I was selling rare and legendary items for gold instead of salvaging them. I thought gold was more valuable than crafting materials. I was completely wrong. Salvaging gives you the materials needed for upgrading gear, crafting gems, and imprinting aspects. These materials become incredibly valuable in endgame, while gold becomes relatively easy to obtain. I spent a fortune buying materials from other players that I could have gotten for free by salvaging my drops. The lesson: always salvage rare and legendary items unless you need immediate gold. Materials are more valuable long-term than the small gold amounts from selling. There you have it. Over 1,000 hours of mistakes condensed into Season 9 lessons. Every single one of these cost me time, resources, and progression. The biggest lesson from all of this? Don't be afraid to dive into new seasonal mechanics immediately. The players who master Season 9 fastest are the ones who embrace rune words, heraldic spellcraft, and community learning from day one. What's the biggest Season 9 mistake you've made? Drop it in the comments. I guarantee other players have made the same rune word errors or heraldic crafting mistakes. I have detailed videos covering each of these topics individually on the channel, from trading strategies to build optimization guides. Check the playlist in the description for the complete breakdown of each mistake and its solution. I'll see you in Sanctuary, and remember, Season 9 is complex, but learning from mistakes makes you stronger.